Well, hello there and welcome to my channel. If you don't know me, hi, I'm Debs, a British expat, mum of two living here in Dubai. And on my channel, you will find videos on all things to do with expat life here in Dubai. In today's video, I'm going to be giving you my top tips for moving to Dubai. In my last video, I talked about things that you really need to think about before making that final commitment and actually moving here. In today's video, I'm going to cover off with you what you do in your first couple of weeks, key things that you just need to know upon first arriving in Dubai. So without further ado, grab your tea or your coffee or whatever tipple you so choose and let's get started. So you're here, you've arrived, you've resigned from your old job, you packed your bags, you've moved here and you're about to start your new job in Dubai. Fantastic. But what are the key things that you really need to know within the first couple of weeks of being here? There were some useful bits of advice that I was given when I first arrived here in Dubai just over 6 years ago that's still relevant for you guys today, and a few other top tips that I've picked up along the way. We'll put timestamps in the description box below, so feel free to skip to any sections if you want to. Of course, I would be delighted if you joined me for the whole video. But anyway, let's get going. Top tip number 1. I would highly recommend that the moment you step foot onto Dubai land when you pass security is to visit one of the 2 mobile phone providers and get a tourist SIM. The SIM will last for the 30 days of your tourist visa. Hopefully by that point your actual visa will have come through and you can just convert it into a residence visa. This is something that I was advised to do the moment I arrived in Dubai, and I found it so helpful to have immediately upon entering into the country a local telephone number. There are 2 main providers, as I mentioned, Do and Etisalat. I'll pop symbols on the screen so you can see what I'm talking about. Go to one of those. They have a monopoly on the market, so you've only got those 2 choices. Go to one of those 2, get your SIM card sorted out straight away so that you are good to go for everything that you will need in Dubai. So top tip number 2, you can't do anything without your visa. I'm sure you're already well aware of this, but I just wanted to let you know the order in which things actually happen so that you can, start your life properly here. So number 1, your visa. As you know, you are here under the sponsorship of the company that you're working for. Hopefully they will be sorting out your visa for you. If you need to sort out your visa subsequently for spouses or other, or dependents, children that you're bringing out as well, I would highly recommend that you hired a PRO, a public relations officer, before you left your country so that you have all the documentation that you actually require in order to get your visa process up and running and get it as smoothly as possible. So you've got your visa, that's sorted. I'll pop a picture on the screen of mine so that you can see what it looks like because it goes in your passport. Then your Emirates ID will be issued. They have just literally released a new one. So the picture that you'll see on the screen is a new one because I've just renewed my visa for another 3 years. Once you have those 2 things, you can then open your bank account, buy a car and rent a property. So that's the order of which things, in which things happen for you to actually really begin your life here. Top tip number 3, getting around. So while you're waiting for your visa and your Emirates ID to come through, you're going to want to get out and explore the place a little bit more. So we have a fantastic metro that is clean and always on time and efficient and air conditioned that runs the length and breadth of Sheikh Zayed Road. So that will take you to the main attractions. It will take you to Dubai Mall and Mall of Emirates and Marina Mall and even now to the Expo 2020 site as well. So that's a fantastic system to use. I've used that extensively and it's really lovely. There is a full bus service as well. I can't tell you too much about that because I've never actually used a bus in Dubai. And the reason I've not used a bus in Dubai is because taxis are so cheap. So you can flag them down, the normal kind of yellow taxis with different coloured roofs. If you're a woman, the roofs that are coloured pink are driven by women, although I've never had an issue and never felt unsafe in any of these taxis. You also have Careem and Uber. So Careem is another version of Uber, and you can actually get a normal taxi through that, or you can get a slightly nicer taxi. I will put links to the apps down below, and I'll put pictures on the screen so you can see what they look like and what I'm talking about. But those are kind of my top recommendations and the easiest way for you to travel around in Dubai, and you just pick in which style you wish to do it. Top tip number 4, following on really from the last point around getting around Dubai, you might choose to hire a car. If you do choose to do that, couple of things to really bear in mind. One, the speed limits. So whatever speed limit it tells you that you can do on the roads, you can do that plus 20. So you'll probably see, for example, on Sheikh Zayed Road, it's 100 kilometers an hour. You can do up to 120 before the speed cameras will go off and you'll be fined. So that's the first thing. The second thing is, remember to really keep your cool. The road system is confusing. You will absolutely get lost. I still very occasionally get lost if I'm going somewhere new. And I've been here over 6 years. So it will absolutely happen to you until you get used to the road systems. It's very frustrating. Keep your cool. The other thing to bear in mind is, or to be mindful of, hand gestures. If other drivers annoy you, and they absolutely will, don't use any hand gestures, because it's a form of defamation, which is illegal in this country. And if you are caught doing it, you could potentially get arrested. So don't do it. Keep your cool, and just remember that you are going to get lost. It is going to happen. Once your visa has come through and your Emirates IDs come through, you will then have the opportunity to convert your license into an Emirates driving license, Emirati driving license, which I've done. Again, I'll pop a picture on the screen of mine so you can see what it looks like. There's a huge list of countries that offer that option where you can convert straight away. There are a couple of exceptions, and with those exceptions, you've got to take lessons and you've got to pass your test all over again. But most European, most large countries, you'll be able to just convert it over without any problem at all. My top tip number 5, and that's all about useful phone apps. So as I mentioned to you before, when I mentioned about getting your tourist SIM when you arrived, we just live off apps and WhatsApp and things here. But the cool thing about it is that you can get pretty much anything delivered to where you are. So that's awesome. I am going to cover a whole list of my top tips for essential phone apps in a later video, but I'm just going to give you now the top essential ones, or the ones I feel that are essentials for when you first arrive in Dubai, that will just make things a little bit easier for you. So the first one is the Entertainer app. So the Entertainer app is 2 for 1. It's eating out, it's brunches, it covers off activities and entertainment as well. So it's well worth getting. There are several different levels that you can get. You could even just buy the tourist one to keep you going for the first 30 days if you get a feel for it. But definitely recommend that you got that. Eating out isn't cheap, particularly unless you're going to like McDonald's. So I'd recommend that you definitely got that. Number 2, as I mentioned to you before, the Careem and the Uber apps. For getting cars and getting around with either the normal taxis or hiring slightly nicer ones. Number 3 is Deliveroo or Eat Easily. There's several other food apps. I tend to stick to Deliveroo, to be honest, for no particular reason, but I just like it. But anyway, so definitely download a food app, and so you can get your takeaways delivered and you've got access to those. The other thing is there are 2 apps called Now, and there's an InstaShop app as well. Now they cover supermarkets and pharmacies, so they're super useful. They're guys driving around on little motorbikes. Well, everyone's driving around on little motorbikes, but anyway, they will go into the supermarket, they will do your shopping for you, and they'll deliver it to your door. So that's fantastic. I've got to be honest, I live less than 5 minutes from my supermarket, and even I've used Now a few times to get some bits delivered. But anyway, it does make you a little bit lazy living in Dubai. But so that's that's Now or InstaShop. There's a couple of shopping apps that I just wanted to mention to you. There's one that's called Noon, which is a local version of kind of Amazon. Doesn't have quite the level of extensive products, but it's still pretty good. And if you order something express, it will get delivered the next day. So that's really, really good. Obviously, you've got Amazon.ae. Most of those products come from America. But again, Some of them are locally sourced as well, so that's really helpful. You're going to know about that one. And then another one that I would recommend if you're kind of looking for any clothes bits is Namshi. They've got loads of really great brands on that one. I certainly use it extensively. But those are 3 kind of little shopping apps for you. 2 more to talk about. One is Dubai Police. This one is obvious. If you do have an accident while you're out and about, that's the one that you need to register an accident, which you absolutely have to do, even if it's just curbing your own car. Not that bad, but even a light tap, you still have to record. You still have to get in touch with the police, even if it's just a tiny little bump. You can't sort it out without yourselves like you would in the UK. But anyway, and finally, Dubai Now. Now, Dubai Now pulls together parking, DWA, which I'll cover off a bit later, your DWA, which is your water bill, your car registration, and any car fines that you might get. So you won't need that really initially, but certainly when you buy a car, you'll definitely need that one. And if you're renting a property, you need it too. So really helpful apps. I will put links to everything below. And as I've talked about these, I'll put pictures on the screen as well. So hopefully you find those key things useful. Top tip number 6, drinking alcohol. Just wanted to pass on a few of the basic rules in case you weren't already aware. When you are first in the country and you are using you can buy alcohol from off licenses and drink alcohol legally under your visit visa. So that's all fine. Once your visa has been converted into a residency visa, you will then need to go and get your alcohol license. Again, I'll pop a picture on the screen of what mine looks like. And that will allow you to buy alcohol from off licenses and drink legally once you're out and about. And when you're out and about, I recommend you just carry it with you. Remember, the drinking age is 21 in case you weren't aware already. And the other thing is, there is a 0 tolerance when it comes to drink driving and when it comes to drinking in public. You are only allowed to drink in designated area. You can't just go and buy a few beers and take them down the beach, free beaches, and drink them. Don't do it. If you get caught, you will be arrested. So just be aware of those things. And those are the key points when it comes to having a tipple when you first arrive. Top tip number 7, and this is something called My Driver when you go out. For myself, I'm a mum, I have 2 kids. When we go to brunches, we prefer to drive our own car there, get it valet parked. How Dubai are we? Get it valet parked, and then somebody will actually meet us at the hotel where the brunch is and drive our car back home for us. We just find this the easiest way, and especially while restrictions were going on during the COVID pandemic. They've been slightly relaxed now, but at one stage you could only have 2 people in a taxi. So it was the only way really for us to go out as a family, and for both myself and my husband to be able to drink at the time. Key things that you just need to mention, I'll pop a link down below with the company that we actually use, and that's just to make sure that they are actually properly insured. If they're not, it'll invalidate your insurance if there is an accident whilst they're driving the car. In terms of cost, it's 100 dirhams, so in British pounds it's about 20 quid, 20 pounds, which is fantastic, no matter where you are. So if you're literally over the other side of Dubai and it's a half an hour, 40-minute drive, the 100 dirhams will cover it. So yeah, it's a fantastic service. We use it all the time. So something I would definitely recommend whilst you're out and about at brunches or out and about drinking. Top tip number 8, making friends. It's an interesting one, isn't it? You've moved countries, you've left your entire social circle behind from wherever you've come from. And it's tricky, and you'll get here and you'll only know 1, maybe 2 people probably at most. As an expat, you're in the same boat as everyone else. Expats outnumber the locals here 3 to 1. So, there are more expats here than there are Emiratis. What you'll find is that we talk about paying it forward. So when you get invited out for things, say yes as much as you possibly can so that you can start building up a really nice circle of friends. So that's advice number 1. Secondly, Facebook groups are literally everything in terms of Dubai. So there is, I'll go with name a few that I'm a part of. There's, the British British Expat group, Brits in Dubai, I think it's called. There's a mums in Dubai, there's a British mums in Dubai, there's a British dads in Dubai. There's the community pages wherever you end up living. So I live in an area called Al Fajan, and there is, I think there's actually 2 Facebook groups for this area, which I think is a bit over the top. But anyway, I'm also an adoptive parent. We adopted our children from Sierra Leone just over 2.5 years ago. So I'm actually also part of an adoption support group in Dubai as well. So there's loads and loads of different Facebook groups and ways to meet people. Dubai is also a hugely sporty place. Doesn't really matter what sport you're interested in, you'll find a club that will accommodate you. So, if you're into sports, pick it back up again. I'm sure you would anyway. Pick it back up again, join a club, and you'll definitely meet new people that way as well. So say yes to invitations, make an effort to join your Facebook groups, and get into some sports, or just join your local gym. My final point for today's video, top tip number 9, and that's all around renting a property here in Dubai. So I just wanted to give you a free kind of a few initial hints and tips around how that kind of works. It's a really fast moving rental system here, rental property system. So rent properties will come up and 2 weeks later they'll be gone. So it's super speedy. So just that's the first thing to make a note of, or just have in the back of your head. It's really nice to kind of join communities depending on where you want to live. I moved into Jumeirah Lake Towers, which is opposite the marina initially, and lived in a fantastic apartment building, and then I moved to a community called Al Fajan, as I mentioned a moment ago, which is really, really lovely. It's a lovely expat community. There's lots of different cultures here, so you do have to be mindful of that. But you know what? It's a really lovely community. You do get to know your neighbours. Everyone is very friendly, as I mentioned before. How you find your property? There's 3 kind of main ways to do that. I will pop pictures and links and all the rest of it. First one is a website called Property Finder. The second one is a website called Bayut, and the third one is Dubizzle. Dubizzle is also useful for secondhand everything. So I guess it's like Craigslist, is it? Anyway, secondhand stuff, furniture, cars, etc., etc., etc. How the rental system works is by literally writing checks and post-dating them. It's a bit of a weird system. This is something that we don't do at all in the UK. So we found it very, very odd and questioned whether it was even legal, to be honest. But anyway, when we first arrived, that typically would happen in 1 or 2 post-dated checks for the year. Things have really changed. And now a lot of people that I know pay month to month, and like a rental check month to month. The difference is that you will hand over to your landlord 12 checks in advance for when you sign that contract. Again, there are a few cases where I think people do live month to month, but mostly you'll be handing over post-dated checks to a landlord. So make a note of the fact that if they bounce, because it's like a promissory note, because they bounce, if it bounces your check, you could do jail time. So, if you're handing a check over, make sure that money's there for when the landlord cashes it. And as a side note as well, if you end up moving out and the landlord is still holding those checks, get them back off him, so that you've got them and you can destroy them. Just as a little side note. But anyway, that's for in the future. In order to legalise your contract, you have to register with the government office something called an ejari. So that's a word that you'll hear banded around. And last but not least, be mindful of the fact that we live in a desert. Your DIWA bill is going to be expensive. Your DIWA is your electricity and your water. Obviously, water is expensive, that goes without saying. But your electricity is expensive because you are running air conditioning. Just make a note as well, especially if you're looking to move potentially into an apartment as opposed to a villa or a house. Sometimes the rent will include air conditioning. If you can find a property where it does that, the rent might be a little bit higher, but I can guarantee it won't be as much as if you actually had to pay for the air conditioning yourself. So they're little nuggets and precious things to find. They're few and far between, but they do exist out there. So those are my last few points in terms of when you're starting to think of actually renting a property. Well, that's it. We've reached the end of today's video. Thank you so much for joining me. I really hope that you found my top tips useful. I'd love to hear from you, so please leave any comments down below, especially about anything you'd like to see from me in the future. Of course, any questions that you might have, I'd love to hear from you. I plan to upload twice a week on a Monday and a Thursday, so please hit that subscribe button and tap the notification bell so that you know when my new videos are coming up. Of course, I plan to continue to record about all things expat life in Dubai. So thanks again so much. I'll see you in my next video. And as the Brits say, TTFN.